Hey everybody, Dukin here with another episode of Trials, Tips, and Tutorials. This episode was actually inspired by my time on the Bungie forums. When I go on a Monday afternoon, more than half of the posts under the competitive category are people saying they got stopped at 8 wins, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times last weekend. They can't get that pesky 9th win. And a lot of them are even seeking advice on how to get that 9th win. I can help with that. So this video is for players who consistently make it to the 8th or 9th win but get stopped from going flawless. I'm going to explain how I see Trials of Osiris, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about being flexible in both strategy and weapon choices, and that's going to help you guys go flawless. So think about a sports team that wins their division in the regular season year after year but always gets knocked out by a low seed in the first round of the playoffs. Any sports fanatic will tell you the season and the playoffs are entirely different animals. Trials is just like sports in that respect. It's a two-part event. Part 1, where the season, is wins 1 through 7, and Part 2, where the playoffs, is win number 8 and 9. If you get to 7 or 8-0 consistently, you are an expert at the season. But if you end up with a loss on your ticket most of the time, you're failing in the playoffs. So the next step to getting better is treating Trials like a season and then a playoffs, not one continuous ticket. It's not one ticket. It's 2 tickets. There's a season and then there's playoffs. And winning at both is different, and you need to learn how to win at both to go flawless. So we know there's 2 types of Trials. So you're probably asking yourself, why do I dominate the season but I get dominated in the playoffs? I'm willing to bet that you play the exact same way against the first team that you play against the last team. And if you get 8 wins consistently, you're likely a good player. So you're going to smack the first few teams around because your style is effective against those teams. But then you play a team who is better at your style than you are. They are beating you at your own game. You have to be able to change up your style in the last 2 games. Playoff champions adapt. Playoff champions are flexible. Playoff champions know that if they beat their opponent one way in the first round, it's not going to work in the second round. And that's because they know that the other team can adapt. Winning the last game of your card is a battle of who can change faster. And there's 2 key parts of your game that need to be flexible: your weapon choices and your strategy. If you snipe every game, you aren't flexible. You only have experience sniping, so you are an incomplete player. You probably win games in the middle of your ticket against teams that you shouldn't beat. So, for example, let's take 2 equal teams. One team is all snipers, and the other team has 1 sniper and 2 shotguns. If everything else is equal, like skill, KD, win percentage, everything for those 2 teams, the team with the shotties and the snipers will win every time. But they don't win every time in the real world, and that's because 3 snipers might just be way better players than the shotgunners. And if that's the case, they didn't win because they have a good strategy. They won because they have a lack of flexibility that wasn't exposed because the other team just sucks or is just inferior players. And you know that I'm right because when you play a team of 3 shotgunners, if you're always sniping, they shut you down for your flawless win. They rush the crap out of you and they beat you. And there's nothing you can do about it. If you were good at shotgunning and sniping, you'd be able to switch your strategy and adapt before the game even started because you know 3 shotguns are going to beat you. You need weapons that can counter any of your opponent's weapons. In the new Destiny, with all these updates, there are meta weapons in every category that you need to be proficient with. The Doctrine of Passing is unchallengeable at close range. The Last Word is still one of the best shotgun counters today. So you need to get comfortable with those weapons for when you inevitably play a team full of shotguns. And the same idea applies to snipers. If you consistently lose snipe fights in the last game, you are not a playoff sniper. Your opponent is better than you are at sniping. You have to accept that. You have to find another way to win. Use a high-impact scout rifle like the Jade Rabbit and then boggle their scope. Or just avoid the sniper lanes altogether. Push up and force them to fight in close quarters. Do literally anything other than what you've done the last 10 times you got stopped at 8 wins because it isn't working. You have to try something else. Practice with the meta weapons so you're prepared for anything your opponent uses. The last point I want to make about strategy is quite simple. You probably do the same thing every round. If you snipe, you challenge the same lanes every game, every round. If you shotgun, you run the same lanes and the same flanks every time. You, my friend, are predictable. And worse, you have no plan B because you've mastered plan A and never tried anything else. Playoff teams know how to beat you in your favorite spot, their favorite spot, and your mom's favorite spot. They know how to rush left, rush right, split up, and flank at the same time. You have to have more than one page in your playbook. That's what the season's for. Go to different spots each round in games 1 through 7. Figure out where head level is on your sniper in different lanes. Take different routes with your shotgun. Learn where you do and don't get picked with your shotgun. Figure out where the best place to stand is, waiting for your buddy to get a pick. That way, when one strategy doesn't work in round 1 of the 9th game, you have 10 other plans to try. 10 plans that you've mastered against a variety of different teams. Use the easy games to get in a rhythm and broaden your options available when you play a team that you can't beat with just one strategy. Alright, let's do a little summary of what we learned today. Trials of Osiris is split between a 7-game season and a 2-game playoff. Teams that win in the playoffs are flexible in both weapon selection and strategy. Teams that go flawless can effectively use any weapon in the current meta, which allows them to counter all of their opponents. Playoff teams also have a playbook full of different plans that they are comfortable to use against anybody. And the most successful teams in trials practice both different weapons and different strategies early in their ticket, which prepares them for anything at the end of the ticket. The gameplay in the background of this video is a game we played against That Wise Boy, who's a decently famous streamer. I think he has around like 2,000 followers. I chose this game because, I had a good game. I'm not going to lie to you guys. That's one of the reasons I picked it. But also because he's a good player, and he's the kind of player that stops me and my team when we're trying to go to the lighthouse. So I just thought it was kind of fitting for this video, and I also wanted to say GG to him and his boys. It was a very intense game. We were up 3-0, and they managed to come back and make it really close. So, yeah. And that's all I have for today, guys. Let me know if this video shed any light on why you haven't been successful getting to Mercury yet. Definitely subscribe. I'll be constantly releasing new videos in this series. And the last thing I wanted to say is that I firmly believe anybody can go flawless. If I can do it, you guys definitely can do it. So my last piece of advice is to constantly question what you do and why you do it when you're playing trials. It will keep you at the top of your game, and it will prepare you to play the best of the competition. Good luck, my friends. Duking us out.